Okay, welcome back, everyone. Happy Thursday, Chodesh Tov. Hope everything is well with all of you. Going to do a Rashi from the fifth Aliyah today. I'm just going to pull that up for you on my screen. Give me 1 second. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. So continuing our story of our parsha, the very exciting story of our parsha. We have more of the makos coming, one after the other. Dam Tzvardea, we're up to Kinim. And in our Aliyah, Torah tells us, Vayomer Hashem Moshe, Emor el Aaron, Nitei et yadcha b'matecha, al ha'narot, al ha'yorim, al ha'agamim, al ha'tzvardim asher al Mitzrayim. That's Makas Tzvardea. And then again, now in our Aliyah today, that was yesterday's Aliyah, excuse me. In our Aliyah today, we have Makas Kinim. Vayomer Hashem Moshe, Emor el Aaron, Netet madcha v'hachet afar haaretz v'haya l'kinim b'chol eretz Mitzrayim. So we're told that Makas Kinim happens through Aaron. Hashem tells Moshe to tell Aaron to put out his staff onto the afar haaretz, onto the soil, onto the ground, so the ground can turn to kinim. Rashi points out over here, and Moral Aaron, Lo ha'afar kedai lukot ayidei Moshe, lefi shehigin alav kshaharagas hamitzri vayitmeneu b'chol, velaka ayidei Aaron. Rashi comments on the fact that Hashem tells Moshe to tell Aaron to carry out this makkah, to carry out this plague against the ground, so to speak, to bring about the makkah of Kinim. And the reason why it's Emor el Aaron, the reason he tells Aaron to fulfill this makkah is because it couldn't take place through Moshe Rabbeinu. Because the ground had protected Moshe Rabbeinu when he killed the Mitzri, last week's Parsha. It says, Vayitmineu b'chol. He buried him in the sand, in the earth, in the ground. And therefore, the ground covered over the murder, the killing, the whatever you want to call it, punishment of this Egyptian in some way, and shielded Moshe a little bit from what might have happened next. And therefore, in gratitude to the ground, Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't carry out a plague that would come to harm the ground. And therefore, it takes place through Aaron. Hashem tells Moshe to tell Aaron to carry out this plague. This is not at all strange, and it's not the first time this happens. In yesterday's Aliyah, the very first Makkah, we learned Vayomer Hashem Moshe Emor el Aaron Kach matcha niteyatchal memei Mitzrayim al naharotam al yoreim al agameim al kol mikvei memehem v'yudam. In the first plague, the plague of blood, the plague of dam, Hashem tells Moshe to tell Aaron to take his staff and stretch it out over all the waters, the rivers and the lakes and the streams and the pools, and all the bodies of water will become blood. And over there again, it's strange. Instead of Moshe carrying out the plague, it's Aaron carrying out the plague for him. Rashi comments there again, Emor el Aaron. Why did he tell Aaron to do this? Lefi shehigin hayeora Moshe kishenishlach letocho, lefikach lo laka al yado, lo bedam, velo betzvardeim, velaka al yedei Aaron. Because the Yaor, the Nile, the river, had also protected Moshe Rabbeinu when he was a baby. He was sent off into the Teva. The Yaor essentially protected his life and allowed him to continue to live and to rise to the stature that he did in Beis Paro, and eventually live to become the Moshiach Shel Yisrael, the one who comes to save the Jewish people. And therefore, since the waters of Egypt had been so good to him, in gratitude, it was impossible for him to carry out a makkah like dam, which would come to harm or to hurt the waters. So too, even though Rashi doesn't state it again, when it comes to Makas Tzvardea, which I showed you mistakenly a little bit earlier over here, when it comes to Makas Tzvardea, it says again, Vayomer Hashem Moshe, Emor el Aaron. He says to Moshe to tell Aaron, Netei yadcha b'matecha al narod yorim agamim, v'hal et hatzvardeim al eretz Mitzrayim. Bring up from the waters all of these frogs on to Eretz Mitzrayim. Now over there, Rashi doesn't comment on that pasuk, but really Rashi's earlier comment on Makas Dam doubles because he mentions here lo bedam v'lo betzvardeim. So Makkah number one on the water, Moshe couldn't fulfill it because of what the water had done for him. Makkah number two, Tzvardea, Moshe couldn't fulfill again because of what the water had done to him. And now the third Makkah, which is in our Aliyah, the fifth Aliyah, Makkah's Kinim, which takes place on the ground, now Rashi has to explain all over again why it's emor al aron, right? You're going to say to yourself, wow, okay, the first one made sense, emor al aron, because it's water related. The second one makes sense, emor al aron, it's water related. It so makes sense that Rashi didn't even need to explain it over there. But now it comes to the third plague, and all of a sudden, his theory about the water goes away. It's not the water at all, it's ala far haaretz, and yet it still says emor al aron. So why is he telling him now to have the plague carried out by Aaron? And now Rashi explains again, it's not just the water which did something for Moshe Rabbeinu, but the earth did something for Moshe Rabbeinu as well. And therefore, all first three plagues, Dam, Tzvardei, Akinim, all have to take place through Aaron. These are famous Rashis and well-known ideas, but the basis of all these is something very important for us to contemplate, and that is, of course, the value and the principle of Hakaras Hatov, the principle of gratitude. We sometimes mistakenly think that the reason why gratitude is such an important principle in Judaism and Torah and in Torah thought is because when someone does something for us and we offer them gratitude, that gratitude is owed to them. It does something for them. It elevates them. Somehow we owe something. We have a debt upon our shoulders towards the other person, which is in some part repaid through the gratitude that we offer them. But what these Rashis reinforce to us is, while that might be true in some way, the main component of gratitude is really not for the other person, but for ourselves. In this case, Moshe Rabbeinu had to show gratitude to inanimate objects, to the water, to the earth, to these things. Clearly, gratitude is not externally focused. Gratitude is not really for the recipient at all. Here, there is no recipient. It's the earth, it's the water. Gratitude is really about training the person himself or herself, who is the recipient of something good in the world, to be able to be grateful for that. It's a character building exercise. It's more about our own traits, our own personality, our own ability to see the world in a certain way, and our own values and our own ethics, rather than about the other person who's the recipient of our gratitude. And therefore, we see from these cases that Moshe Rabbeinu had to inculcate within himself a very high level of gratitude, appreciation, even for those things in nature, those inanimate objects that had been good to him, so that he could view the world through a grateful lens. And we should all be able to do that as well, viewing the world through a grateful lens and trying to perhaps rise to the level of Moshe, to have gratitude even for the inanimate objects which have helped us. I'm so grateful for this wonderful chair that is so comfortable, and for the desk that holds my papers, and for the many, many bookshelves that hold all my heavy books. And so if you can be grateful to those things, then perhaps you can train yourself to be grateful to others, grateful to yourself, and grateful to Hashem as well. I wish you all a wonderful day and a wonderful month ahead. Take care.
Beautiful.
Thank you.